We are number 6.
Number 6 reason is a very big one and very plain one. Jesus ate, slept, and prayed. He ate, slept, and prayed, and we know God by his very nature is self-sufficient. He does not need anything to continue his existence. God does not need to eat. God does not need to sleep. God does not need to pray. God is not in need of anything, because if he was in need of something, then he would not be God. He would need something else other than himself to exist. That would therefore would not make him, that would take away his Godship. And we know that Jesus Christ was born. We know that he ate. We know that he slept, and we know that he prayed. Had he not ate, slept, or drank any water, he would have died. Therefore, he was not self-sufficient. He needed something to continue his existence. Therefore, by his very nature of not being self-sufficient and God being self-sufficient, those two things can't mix. You can't be self-sufficient and not self-sufficient all at the same time.
Again, the brother wants to confirm what God does and doesn't do. All of these things are human assumptions that we really have no insight on. But anyway, at this point, we have already thoroughly addressed all of this when I went to Genesis 19, 1 through 3, and showed how the angels who are called gods in Tanakh ate and feasted with Lot. So I'm not going to go back over that. So I'm going to continue on and just showing how God eats and drinks from other angles. So let's go to Hebrews chapter 13. Let's start at verse 2. And it reads, "Be not forgetful to entertain strangers, for thereby some have entertained angels unawares." So this is more insight on how you could be anywhere. It could be a baseball game, a football game, at a restaurant while eating nachos, or simply catching a bus and there's a bum on the street and he's begging you for money. You have no idea. You can entertain an angel, and according to Tanakh, angels can eat, angels can rest, angels can sleep. Angels are considered Elohim. Let's not forget, Bain, Elohim, sons of God. Once you have that understanding, all these little issues that Muslims raise, it really doesn't make much of an argument at all. Christ himself was a Torah observant Jew. Yes, he was a man and he was God at the same time. We believe that. Remember, these angels in Tanakh came in the form of man. Okay? Let's not forget that. And since Jesus was a Torah observant Jew, of course, aside from what he ate on a day-to-day basis, he also partake of the food and drink at the temple of every feast. You know, all the feast days you read about in Leviticus chapter 23, we know that he partake in those things. And other feast days that the Jews celebrated outside of Torah, like the Feast of Dedication or Hanukkah. So we know that Christ ate and drank according to Torah. This means he ate no swine's flesh. This means he would have drank wine. Yes, he would have drank wine. And people try to make drinking wine a sin. You cannot read that in Torah. Because why would it be a part of God's holy days? To overindulge in alcoholic beverages is a sin. And the Bible gives us no evidence of Jesus being a wine bibber. And I've heard people try to say that. So now let's go to the book of Matthew and let's look at when Christ was partaking of the Passover meal, which is the bread and wine portion of Passover. Okay? And let's look at what he said to his disciples, right? Matthew chapter 26 and verse 29, and it reads, "But I say unto you, I will not drink henceforth of this fruit of the vine until that day when I drink it new with you in my Father's kingdom." Look at what Christ is saying right here. He is letting them know that he is not going to drink the wine until he drinks it new in the Father's kingdom. So he's letting them know that, yes, I am God. Yes, I am man. Yes, I eat. Yes, I drink. And guess what? In the future, we're going to be eating and drinking together in the Father's kingdom. I don't understand why Muslims have such a problem with this. Y'all just don't want to accept the dual nature of the Messiah. And by the way, he couldn't be the Messiah if he wasn't Torah observant and partaking in the eating and the drinking of God's set apart holy days. So he's telling them that this is going to be something being done in the future. So let's go to the prophet Zechariah and read the prophecy of what Jesus Christ is saying right here. Zechariah chapter 14 verse 16, and it reads, "And it shall come to pass that every one that is left of all the nations which came against Jerusalem shall even go up from year to year to worship the King, the Lord of hosts, and to keep the Feast of Tabernacles." See here, this is future. People will go up from year to year to worship and keep the Feast of Tabernacles. What's going on at the Feast of Tabernacles? Eating, drinking, and feasting. You still not convinced? Because obviously this isn't the Feast of Unleavened Bread or the Passover, right? At some point, common sense got to kick in. If the Most High set up all these feast days in Leviticus chapter 23, he's not just going to have the people celebrating just the Feast of Tabernacles. He's going to have everybody observing all his feast days and holy days. If you go to the book of Ezekiel, it tells you in Ezekiel 45 and 17 all the Sabbaths. If you read down to the 21st verse, it tells you Passover and Feast of Unleavened Bread. In Ezekiel 45 and 25, it tells you the Feast of Tabernacles again. In Ezekiel 46 and 1, it says the weekly Sabbath. Ezekiel 46, 9 and 11, it talks about the solemn or appointed times. So what I'm saying is the way the Most High works is how he's always worked, with consistency. If he had the children of Israel doing all this stuff before the Jews' temple was destroyed, that's exactly the way he's going to have it done in the future. We got to use common sense here. So on Christ's millennial temple, there's going to be eating and drinking. Now let me address the fact that this brother is a Muslim, right? The fact that he's a Muslim blinds him from seeing this stuff. There will be no man-made festivals from false religions. There will be no Al-Juma or Ramadan. There will be no pilgrimage to Mecca. All the people will be required to come to Jerusalem. And that bears out in the book of Ezekiel. And then if you go on to Ezekiel, I want to say chapter 40, it tells you about the temple. And it tells you about the dimensions in the temple. And it's different from all the dimensions in all the prior temples. So Christ is going to set up a new kingdom where he will be drinking the wine new with all the saints. This brother has no understanding.